Welcome to the basement, everybody. I'm your host, 90's Basement Kid, and yeah, I'm back. I know it's been a while. That happens, but I'm here today to get everybody caught up on the movies that I've seen this summer. And just to note, just right off the bat, no Avengers, none of the Disney remakes. I'm really not interested in them. You know, if I wanted to see those movies, I would just see the originals. I mean, really, what am I going to say about The Lion King? Like, oh yeah, you know, it was a really good movie. You know, it was almost as good as The Lion King. Like, that's the best I'm going to say about it. I'm going to talk about the movies that I've seen that I've been interested in seeing and just get you caught up on where I'm at for 2019 so I can continue on and we can be all up to speed. First up is Rockeman, the Elton John biopic. Now, this was actually a really good movie. I really enjoyed how they tried to make it different than your standard kind of musical biopic fare. They all seem to follow the Dewey Cox formula. You know, that is the kind of linear passage of time and how their life was and that sort of thing. And while this movie does definitely have that in it, they also do a really good job of making it feel, you know, like fantastical and that sort of thing. It feels almost more like a musical than it does like a biopic, to be quite honest. And it really, you know, it stands out. The visuals are outstanding. The acting is fantastic. Taron Egerton actually does the singing as well as, you know, a person can do for what's the voice of Elton John, which is pretty much irreplaceable. But the movie's fantastic, got a lot of great visuals, and I enjoyed it immensely, and I would definitely recommend it. It's one of the best I've seen this year. Next up, we have the remake of Child's Play. Now, this is a very enjoyable movie for the most part as well. It's not perfect. There are definitely some things. It feels totally inconsistent. You know, the big portion of the movie, to be quite honest, feels like a comedy, and it works. You know, it feels like the people that made this film understood, you know, what makes these movies and the character of Chucky work. And, you know, yes, it is supposed to be scary to a degree. The original is definitely balls out, flat out scary with no real... There's a little humor to it, but it's not like any of the other ones, you know, as you would see that progress. But there are just times where this movie feels like it doesn't know like what sort of movie it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be the serious kind of route or if it wants to just be flat out hysterical, but it still works well as an effective, you know, remake. It's definitely one of the better remakes, I would say, especially recently, of any horror film. It's not the best, but I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I do think, you know, Mark Hamill is outstanding as Chucky, and the way they go about doing the character differently in this one, I think, really adds to the story and makes it so you're not just watching the same old thing, and I really actually quite enjoyed it. Next up was one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, even the year, Midsommar. Now, I loved Hereditary, which was this director Ari Aster's previous work. I thought it was not just one of the best horror movies of last year, and not just one of the best movies of last year either, but it's, to me, the scariest movie I've seen as an adult, and one of the best horror movies of all time. This movie, not so much. Now, I will say off the bat, this isn't a terrible movie, or at least I didn't find it terrible. It is well shot. There's a lot of artistic visual craft to this movie that really, you know, makes it quite beautiful to watch at times, but just the story, man, it goes on and on and on, and just, you know, by the time things happen, the effect for me was gone, because it's what you're seeing is not any more ridiculous or disturbing to what you've already seen, and just some of the characters, the choices they make, I didn't think were particularly smart for the type of movie that they seem to be making, and just those sort of things. I mean, it wasn't like, I wouldn't say it sucks, I think it's a little strong, but it was a disappointment to me, I have to be honest, and I really didn't fully enjoy it. By the time the ending happens, which is, you know, supposed to be this magnificent, disturbing sort of thing, you just really don't care, and it's ridiculous, and not just me, but a lot of people in the theater were straight up laughing, which is not usually a good sign for this type of movie, for to have that going on. However, I can't say that everybody will feel this way. I think a lot of people would really enjoy this movie if you can handle that sort of thing. So that's Midsommar to me. It is what it is. Next up, we have The Art of Self-Defense, which is quite frankly one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. You know, this movie had been on my radar, probably just me. This movie had been on my radar for quite a bit of time, ever since I had seen the trailer. I just thought something about it kind of was magnetic for me, and it drew me to it. I'm not sure what exactly, but I thought this is a very good movie. it does comedy very well. It's dark. It is a very dark comedy, so if that's not your cup of tea, you might just want to skip it. And if you hate Jesse Eisenberg, you're probably not going to like him a whole lot because of this movie, but I actually thought he did a fantastic job with the character and with the story, as did everybody else. The entire cast is outstanding. Imogen Poots, she really stood out to me. I've seen her in things before, but this is the first time where I was like, okay, you know, she definitely caught my attention with her performance and her role in this movie. You know, I think it does a really good job at critiquing sort of what people would call, I guess, you know, the masculinity crisis that we're going through now, and how people kind of can be pushed to do certain things and act in certain ways because of that. And this is about, you know, a character that takes advantage of that and almost uses it to create a borderline cult. But I really don't want to spoil it because I think this movie is outstanding and I think everybody should see it. So The Art of Self-Defense, it's fantastic. Go see it. It's not playing in a lot of theaters right now. I don't know if that'll change, but definitely catch it when you can, whether it's in theater, whether it's at home. You will not regret it. Last up is the most recent movie I've seen, and that is Crawl. Now, this is a very fun movie. This is like the classic kind of monster creature film that I loved as a kid growing up. Plus, you know, now it's gory, so that's fantastic as well. I mean, it is sort of one-dimensional in ways, I can't lie, which actually, you know, is normally a deficiency for a film. And I think for this, it is somewhat, but it really doesn't take away from the overall feeling of the movie, which is, you know, fast, high-paced, tense, you know, kind of claustrophobic at times with a lot of good set pieces in action. Because I do have to say, despite it being clearly a pretty low-budget movie, and, you know, my one real complaint about it would be sometimes the gators look like shit. I can't lie. The CGI is not, it's not terrible, but you can tell it's CGI, which can kind of on occasion throw you out. However, there are a lot of scenes where they do tricks with the lighting to really hide it, and it works well. You know, they are ferocious. You know, the deaths are, like I said, you know, they're not the goriest I've ever seen, but they definitely, there's a couple of them as you're seeing it, you feel it, and you're like, oh man, that's pretty fucked up. So anytime you can kind of feel that way, you know, I think that's what those movies are for. That's sort of the point, is to like kind of give you some tension, some scares, with it being kind of a fun kind of action movie. You know, they also have a really good MacGuffin with the dog, who is a good plot piece that I think adds well to the story, and quite frankly is rather fantastic, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. That wraps it up for the movies that I've seen so far this year. There might be some that I'm missing, but, you know, I'll talk about them later at some point. We'll be back really soon. There's a lot of movies, you know, new and old, that I'm really looking forward to talking about in the next coming weeks and months, including next up will be the new Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All right, everybody, hit like and subscribe at the bottom, and comment and like. Peace.